Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. My name is Salvador Briggman. On this channel, we love to talk about crowdfunding and the many ways in which you can turn your idea into reality. How do you turn your passion into profit? We talk to creators, we talk to entrepreneurs, inventors, people that are really the Leonardo da Vinci's of our time. And really in today's video, we're talking about the types of prototypes. So I want to keep this video very kind of nuts and bolts fashion, not too much guff, right? Really just get to the core of this. Hopefully this can help you if you're trying to create a new product and also getting something new into the world, and it's coming up right after this. All right, man, welcome back again to this video. And if you've been watching some of my other videos out there, give me a thumbs up and let me know. Hailing from you now in sunny Miami, Florida. And today I really want to talk about the different types of prototypes, right? I'm really kind of getting into at that point. I've been doing this for a long time. You know, I started in the industry from crowdfunding when it comes to 2012. This has been for me a labor of love. And one of the things I'm so passionate about is just getting out good quality education information to people out there like you so you can start taking action. So you have no more excuses to really buckle down and to get something new into the world. And we think about it, whether it's my lamp, right? Whether it's a sofa, whether it's any kind of product that's around you, these are all made by other people and you can do the exact same thing. So we have to just demystify that process. And that's what I love to talk about on this channel and also obviously with my podcast. So let's get into it. So to me, this, if you think about it, is the way that humanity has been able to bring ideas that are in our head into the real world. So to me, this is really fundamental to the state of humanity, right? Which is that human beings have figured out how to turn ideas in our head, and we're basically just chimps on this big ball of rock, right? We've learned how to turn ideas in our head into real world applications and products. And even going, you think back to the times of like pyramids and people think aliens made that, right? And you think about just the engineering that went into that, or you look at Roman architecture and understanding the architecture and the ways that they made products back in their day, it is so freaking cool. So what we're actually talking about is the tested scientific step-by-step process for taking something that you thought of in your mind. You literally just had an idea, and over time, bringing that into the real world and something that other people can use, can impact their life, that they can benefit from, that you can earn money from as well. If you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, you can get a bunch of cash when you do a Kickstarter campaign, or you do another type of crowdfunding campaign, or eventually you can start an online store and sell this to people around the world and build a whole big business. It all starts with this. So this is extremely important, and the more that you can understand this process and begin to master it, and most importantly, take action, the faster you're going to see results show up in your life. So I have a whole other video out there basically going through things when it comes to like building a product from scratch and really going into sketches and all kind of stuff. So I'm gonna kind of gloss over that and really just get into the types of prototypes. So the first type of a prototype is a visual prototype. Now, what do I mean by a visual prototype? A visual prototype is one in which you can see, and it might not necessarily be made by the same materials as the end product. It might not be even the same weight as the end product. And in addition, it might not even function as it should, but you can visually get a sense of the size, the dimensions, and the way that this product will look at the end of the day. So another way of kind of phrasing this, you want to get beyond like all of the terminology, is that this is kind of like a model, basically. But it's really a visual prototype. Now, there are many different types of visual prototypes. You could have one made out of materials, for example. You could use some kind of prototyping material. I have a video out there on different prototyping materials. You could use wood, you could use styrofoam, you could even create things when it comes to out of cardboard. There's a lot of, foam core, whatever it is that you want to use in order to make a visual prototype, or you could create what's called a three-dimensional visual prototype that's digital. And I'm talking about basically like a CAD drawing, a CAD prototype, where you can see this thing in 3 dimensions. It's digitally rendered in that way. And I would say along that line, you can also have 3D photorealistic renderings would also kind of be in a visual prototype realm. So the first one is to have a visual prototype. That's really one of the first types of prototypes that I wanted to mention in this video. The second type is a proof of concept prototype. Now, a proof of concept prototype is really there just to demonstrate that the concept of what you came up with can work to a degree. So when it comes to this type of prototype, it isn't necessarily made out of the same materials that the end product is gonna be. It might not even look like the end product. It might just be something that other people look at it and like, wait, what the heck is this? But it demonstrates the proof of concept. So when it comes to putting together this type of prototype, I'd say the biggest difference is that there's usually an element of functionality, or at least you can see and identify the functionality within the particular prototype. So that being said, you're probably honestly using things that are just ready-made materials around the house. You may be even using other products which you kind of put together in order to make this particular prototype. But even, I know I've had people who use like PVC piping or even plastic bottles, or even think about different ways in which they can kind of make a rudimentary proof of concept prototype to demonstrate that their idea can actually work. The concept of what they're thinking of can work. And that can be extremely useful for you to think about it. It can be extremely useful as well. You think about the engineering to a tiny degree, and also to start to also brainstorm, what would it look like? What are some of the materials I might need to consider? It can help again with that process of turning this very rough idea in your head into something that actually exists in the real world. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. The next is a presentation prototype. So this is kind of when you're making the thing look a lot more pretty, right? You make it look very pretty now. So what you're doing with this is that you basically then have a prototype that looks just like the real thing. It's almost there. It's very close to being there. For anyone who was kind of like a novice, they might even think that this is the end product. But you're kind of a secret scientist and you know that it's not, right? So behind closed doors, what are some of the differences between a presentation prototype and the next stage? The biggest difference is that it might not be made out of the fully end materials that the end product is. So it might not be made out of those same materials, and in addition, the actual manufacturing process which you went through to make this presentation prototype might not be the same manufacturing process that you would use to make this product on a massive scale. So the difference is in the materials and also the manufacturing process, particularly when it comes to a presentation prototype. The objectives of the presentation prototype are really to show this to other people, to show that it does exist. And typically there's also functionality that is built into that prototype. So if anything, I would say this is really the closest that you're going to get to the real thing without it being the real thing. With this particular type of prototype and others, important thing to mention is that it's not like you're just going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Okay, go and listen to some of the other podcasts that I got there. And I got tons. I think we have like 400 episodes now on my podcast, and you will hear people who literally are working on a product for the span of 8 months, some people for a year, some people for even longer. And what they're doing is that they're going through multiple iterations. So for example, they might be in the design, 3D rendering, CAD drawing, concept sketches, modeling phase for a while, going through a couple different iterations because they identify problems they didn't even realize, right? They might realize like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work this way, or the way the user interfaces with it doesn't work the way that I want it to. And then let's just say they get to the next stage, or maybe they do a proof of concept prototype and they realize, oh gosh, I have to figure out this next engineering problem, right? Or I have to figure out this or that. But once they get a particular prototype that's kind of working and they realize, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. We maybe need some software for this, or we need to figure out electrical engineering, or if it's something more of like a fashion product or something like that, we need to change the way the zipper works, right? Or we need to do these different things. So as you're going, when it comes to turning this idea into something that's real, you're going to develop all these little different problems. And whether or not you're successful with the product is really just persisting and solving these problems one after another, and really thinking about this over time. And I kind of liken this almost to the way that people used to read books. So I'm an author, right? I love writing books. I've written 10 books. I've done a bunch of different books out there on different subjects when it comes to Kickstarter, crowdfunding, etc., and even other things that are out there that I love talking and teaching about. So what happened would be back in the day, before the printing press was actually invented, people would only have a couple or a handful of books in their library. So I have tons of books. I love reading books, right? But back in the day, there was no printing press. It was really hard to make books. So people would only have like 1 or 2, and they would spend their entire life just poring over that same book, and reading through it and taking away different lessons as they grew older and older. And it's almost very similar to the way that a great product comes into existence, which is that you're not just going out there, you're going with many different divergent routes. You're staying focused and you're thinking through this one particular problem again and again and again. And you're molding it over in your mind, and you're thinking through these problems, and it becomes more polished. And sometimes even the end product doesn't necessarily look exactly the way that you thought it would, because you're going through a creative process as well as a problem problem-solving process. So you might decide to change up the materials which you're using based on maybe some of the functionality that you want to have, or when it comes to the durability, right? Or the way that the user interacts with it. Or you might need to have some kind of mechanical working that you didn't realize you need to have in that product. So again, this is a journey. This is a process. You're engaging both your creativity and also to a degree, the right side of your brain when it comes to problem solving and these different things. So this is very important to realize that I'm not just talking about going from one prototype to the next prototype to the next. Usually this is a cyclical process, if that makes sense. All right, man, so you have been taking action and you basically then are going into the final phase of this entire shebang, which is pre-production. So when you have a pre-production prototype, that's really when you're like basically done. And that's really when you have a prototype that is made out of the final materials that the end product will be made out of. And in addition, it's made from the manufacturing process or very close to manufacturing process that the final products will as well. So with this, you basically have made a product. It looks like a duck. It quacks like a duck. It waddles like a duck. The thing's a freaking duck, right? And you've done everything that you can in order to make it the best possible. And that's really when you then can start the whole manufacturing process, usually after, some other different things that you're doing. So you've made something that's gone from your idea in your head, gone through this entire process, starting with this idea. I'm gonna try to illustrate, starting with this idea, maybe going from this idea to concept sketches, going from concept sketches maybe even to a 3D rendering or CAD drawings, a 3D visual prototype, maybe even having a model, if you will, made out of different materials just to get an idea of the size and dimensions. Then moving further, maybe you even start it if you wanted to with a concept prototype. So there's no real, I'd say, rule, right, when it comes to where you start. But the most important thing is that you do continue to take action and you solve and you figure out these problems. And eventually you get to this end point where you have the prototype made out of the end materials. It works as you want. It functions as you want. It uses and solves the problems, right? It solves the problems for the users that they care about. And then you can sell this in mass production and in mass quantity. So we talk a lot about this on this channel. And if you ever want to talk about this with me, you can always book a one-on-one coaching call down below. And we can talk about your particular aspirations when it comes to this. I do a lot of long-term coaching. I think it really helps as well because it can be a really lonely road when it comes to creating a new product from scratch. It's great to have someone to bounce these ideas off of. And as well, I love helping people with doing Kickstarter campaigns, Indiegogo campaigns. And it's one of the ways that people will finance things, for example, manufacturing costs or getting a huge bulk of orders, so that way they can cut down a lot of their costs going into production. So that's why people do crowdfunding campaigns. That's why people do Kickstarter campaigns, is that they can get a ton of traffic on their products. They can literally grow a brand overnight. They can get tons of funding as well, which goes into purchasing the minimum order quantity for this particular product, as well as helping with manufacturing costs. So tons of people out there are doing these campaigns for this exact reason. And this is exactly why crowdfunding was created. So a lot of my coaching students as well are like, Sal, someday I would love to maybe do a Kickstarter campaign. This is where I am right now. And then we're working alongside them, as we go, making sure they're making progress. So that sounds like you. Go and check out my link down below. But in addition, I got tons of free content out there. Dude, go and check out some of my free videos. I have a great video linking to exact resources which you can use in order to make your first model. I will try to link up that video down below if I remember to, right? When it comes to this video. But if nothing else, hope you enjoyed it. Hope I brought a little bit of positivity to you today. And at least you have a sense like this actually is possible. So many other chimpanzees, human beings have done this before me. This is really something that bringing an idea into reality does not have to be mystical. This is really a channel where we try to demystify this and really create more of a scientific process. So I hope you enjoy it. Give me a thumbs up, come subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time.